Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile, the podcast. This is episode 167 called John.
Hello, everybody. This is Allie and Blair, the co-founders of Fertility Rally, and we are here to tell you a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how we can support you on your infertility journey.
So we wanted to let you know that Fertility Rally is the membership group that we created. It's the place we wish we had when we were in the thick of it. We offer support groups. We have private Facebook groups. We have tons of events, lots of videos, blog posts, so much content. We're starting to do IRL events as well. And we want to be there for you no matter where you are on your journey.
Yeah, our favorite part, we had no idea where this would go when we started it. And our favorite part about it is watching all of our members, which is like 300 plus at this point, connect and create true lifelong friendships. We have members that are meeting up in real life. We have members that are supporting each other on Instagram. We have members that call each other best friends now. And honestly, like that is the most rewarding thing to see. We had no idea it would go here. And so we're inviting you to join the Rally fam.
Yeah, it's such a great space. It's a safe space. We also have fun when we can. So we would love for you to be a part of it. Check us out on fertilityrally.com and on Instagram at fertilityrally. Hope to see you guys soon.
Today's episode is presented by Belly. Belly offers modern prenatal vitamins optimized for fertility, prenatal, and post-pregnancy health. To learn more about how to optimize your fertility and pregnancy health, check out their vegan-friendly, dairy-free, non-GMO vitamins for both men and women at bellybaby.com. That's spelled BELIBABY.com. The best part, if you use code ALLIE15, you'll get 15% off your first month of either Belly Women or Belly Men. Again, that's code ALLIE15, ALI15, for 15% off. Thanks, Belly. Okay, guys, so today we have a really interesting story. I'm talking to John Smothers, who is 71 years old. He is a businessman who lives in Lubbock, Texas, and he is going to talk about how he and his wife, Gayle, in the 70s and 80s were having infertility problems. It took them 7 years to have their first child, as a matter of fact. And so they were intimately familiar with the trauma of infertility. And then when Gayle passed away of breast cancer in 2018, one of the last things she said to him was, do whatever you can to help other couples. So he's going to talk about his journey with his wife, and he's going to also talk about the invention that he helped create, which is called the Reproductive Solutions ProteX Sperm Collection Cup, and how that all came about because of his own infertility story. So once again, it's someone who, turned their pain into their purpose, and I'm going to let him tell you all about it. So without further ado, this is John's infertility story. All right. So thank you so much, John, for doing this today. It's great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story with you.
Of course. So let's start at the beginning. Did you always want to have kids?
Yes. That was a long answer.
Right? Yes, this is going to be a short interview.
A couple of things in the background. I'm Catholic.
Uh-huh.
That'll be a factor in some of the comments a little later on.
Okay.
I went through high school in parochial schools. That's where I actually met my wife in third grade.
Oh, wow.
If you can imagine that.
Sure.
She didn't catch my eye till I was a sophomore.
Okay. My husband and I are high school sweethearts as well. We started dating when we were 16.
Yeah. Yeah. So
just a few years ago, John.
Yeah. But, and people want to know this about me. I'm 71 years old.
Okay. Excellent.
Yes, we always wanted to have kids. We got married in college, and then as we finished up, we decided that we wanted children, but we had difficulties with that happening. And this is back in the late 70s, early 80s. There wasn't much around to help in terms of assisted reproduction technologies that really hadn't been developed yet.
Right.
Most of our journey was just through the OBGYN.
Okay.
7 years before we had our first child, it turned out being a condition of endometriosis, and it was surgeries that finally corrected things. The good part of the story is that we had two boys, Steve and Ryan. I'm fortunate that both of them have businesses and they live here in Lubbock. Mm-hmm. In addition to the two boys, there are 4 grandchildren, and get an opportunity to see them growing up, which is
wow,
a really super thing.
That is cool. Yeah. Can we backtrack a bit, John, and just talk about what the landscape looked like in terms of fertility back in the late 70s and early 80s, like you said? So, imagine people weren't really talking about this stuff, right? Was a lot of this kind of hush hush behind closed doors?
Very hush. And there were different areas of research that were going on. Nothing, though, was really available as a fertility expert. The OBGYN we used was considered knowledgeable in terms of infertility, but there wasn't really a specialist to go anywhere.
Right. So there weren't like reproductive endocrinologists or anything like that at the time.
No. And from the male side, back then, this was something that you didn't talk about. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's pretty much the same today. And back then, the process of collecting a sample wasn't sophisticated, and to a large degree, it hasn't been today either. The process is still pretty much the same. Masturbate and do a collection. Mm-hmm. Use whatever kind of container you could find at that point. Mm-hmm. Just I recall, we used a pill bottle, I think, and then it was a matter of rush to get it to the lab so that they could do analysis and that kind of thing. So
right.
My experience with the collection, there wasn't really an assisted technology procedure that was done. So it was just from the standpoint of several analysis, just to determine if the male, if I was part of the problem that needed to be treated.
Uh-huh. So was the issue, I know you mentioned endometriosis ended up being one of the causes or the cause, but was the issue that you guys were just trying and nothing was happening when you were trying to get pregnant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can remember not just the stress of going through that, but the tears in Gayle's eyes when, it didn't happen.
Of course.
And so that's a very long and really a lonely journey when there's nobody's talking about this.
Right. So you didn't have friends that you could talk to or family, or like, obviously there was no online community or anything like that at the time. Were there any like books or groups or anything that you could do, or was it just?
No, there wasn't. And all our friends had kids. Mm-hmm. So it was very stressful at the time. And that's always been in the back of my mind. And that's one of the things that got me so passionate about this particular technology when I saw it, that, there has to be a way to get it to market. And that's been a very long process going through that.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about ProteX and like at-home collection and stuff like that, the benefits of it. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story too. So what happened? So your OBGYN was what were they telling you guys to do in terms of trying?
Just to keep trying. Mm-hmm. But the part of the problem in that is that not in all cases, but in our case, endometriosis also led to a factor of that intercourse was painful. Mm-hmm. So just to keep trying was like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Right.
So we would try, but then we'd have to back off for a while and catch our breath, I guess, so to speak, hoping that something would present itself that we could get the problem solved. And when we had the diagnosis of the endometriosis and found out that there was surgical procedures that could be used to hopefully correct that, that's when we really got excited. And thankfully, it was a laparoscopic procedure. Uh-huh. In terms of recovery time, that really did speed things up. Of course, in today's environment, there's lots of support groups and people are talking about this, and you're a very good example of that.
Thank you.
That helps a lot, but there's still 7-8 million couples that are going through this all the time in the United States, and
right,
a lot of them they can't afford the treatments. Mm-hmm. So They need to have a place to go and to talk about it. And if there's anything that can be done to improve their chances, we need to be doing everything we can for them.
Right. So after the surgery and the endometriosis, was that kind of what did the trick for you guys? Then were you able to get pregnant? Kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did that feel to finally, after all those years, finally be able to?
That feels like that anvil that you're carrying on your back is, finally lifted.
Right.
And it's as amazing as I think back to it, the great joy of knowing that we were going to have children, but it seemed like all the color came back and everything I looked at, everything was more joyous, and just felt like you were finally going to have the opportunity to be the full person that you hope you could be in terms of a family.
Okay. So let's talk about what happened when you met. I think you were introduced to two Texas Tech University researchers, right? Yes. Who had developed a semen collection cup for cattle, right? Is that what happened?
Yes. And the background to that, at that time, which would be back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I a program for Lubbock Economic Development Alliance that was called the Lubbock Regional Bioscience Initiative. And it was a monthly networking events where we were trying to bring together researchers and investors and all the service providers, trying to create jobs out of technology was the idea. As I was leaving the chairmanship of that program, I had met Dr. Sam Preen. He was attending these events, and he came and he said, I want to talk to you. And he told me a little bit about his technology. And he said, we really think that there's a great place for this in the market, but we know our place is in the lab. So, need someone to, help us take a look at it and see, is there some way that we can bring this forward? So I told him, well, yeah, I'd love to take a look at what they had. So I read through, it was patented technology. I read through what they had and talked to them about what had been tried. And it was developed initially for cattle, given that this is an agriculture region, if there's some way you can increase calves on the ground, then economically it really makes sense for a cattle industry to be using everything they can. And we looked at it, but the costs associated to try to sustain it at that just didn't look like the economic model was there to sustain. So I talked to them in terms of, have you ever really looked at the human side of this? And, I see the animal data and it's really impressive. Do you think that the data would be the same in humans? And their response was absolutely. Pretty much a sperm is a sperm. And so I said, well, let's look at that. And, if we see similar results, and I think that's the way to go. So we put together a small FDA-approved trial with some couples to see, does this really make a difference? And it did. And when I saw the results, that's when I got really excited. In the human market, if you can change things like 1% one way or another, then you've got something.
Right.
What I was seeing wasn't 1%. I was seeing 10, 20% changes.
Wow.
I thought, man, this is going to be, it could be a game changer. So we need to really get on this and start researching and do some other things. So we formed the company. That was back in 2009. And continued the research and bringing it forward. And at this point, we were all bootstrapping the company. I was doing it on a part-time basis. I had another company that I was running at the time. And 2014, everything just kind of went back on hold. And that was because my wife, Gayle, had developed breast cancer.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
The focus was that was the importance. I didn't have the time after work to be doing these other things because that was what was important. So it just kind of went not totally dormant. But I couldn't afford to be putting any money into it because I had medical bills and all that kind of stuff going on. And so about the time she went into remission, Texas Tech had started a program called the Innovation Hub. It was a facility that for 20 years, I pushed put something like this together, a place that entrepreneurs could go to get the help they need to develop companies, et cetera. And I decided I didn't know they had built it. I'd kind of gotten out of that endeavoring, I guess. And they had, and they needed mentors. So I went to, I love helping people. So I went to be a mentor, and in the process of being vetted, they said, "What's this company, Reproductive Solutions?"
Right.
And so I gave them the quick story, and they said, "Well, we're starting our first cohort of companies. You really need to put together a team and, come in here and enter the competition." So I talked to my wife about it, and she said, "Well, we've always had dreams about the technology helping people. So
right.
Go for it." So we entered the competition. We won the competition, the initial competition, which was it's called I-Core, which is through the National Science Foundation. So we had a small grant that could let us begin to resurrect things. Then we entered the accelerator program, and we won that. And then we entered the medical school here. They had a President's Innovation Award, so we entered that competition. We won that competition.
Right.
So we had some grants that came in to give us some footing. And about that time, the cancer came back. She ended up within a year of losing that battle, so she passed away. And in the interim,
so sorry to hear that.
The researchers became business people. At least a degree to keep things moving. Well, I was full-time as a caretaker. And so we did, during that same period, we did get through our first round of interaction with FDA so that we could get the product listed and market. And we had just started that when she passed away. And one of the things I promised her was I would make this happen.
Yes, I read that she had said one of the last things she said was do whatever you can to help those couples, which must have been just so much fuel for your quest, right? I mean, that must have been. Did you know that 1 in 8 couples struggle with fertility? That's over 7 million people in the United States alone. And the risk of miscarriage, it's more common than breast cancer or diabetes. The challenges of your fertility journey, we don't talk about them enough. We assume that when you're ready to have kids, it will be easy, but that just isn't the case for everyone. The journey can be expensive, mystifying, and full of disappointment and shame, but there is hope. You are not alone. On the new podcast, Baby or Bust, hosts Dr. Laura Shaheen, an OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist, answers your questions, dispels the myths, and transforms disappointment into hope. Every episode of Baby or Bust features interviews with experts and real-life infertility survivors to explore answers to questions like, should I put my hips up afterwards? Should I be eating a pineapple to help with embryo implantation? Boxers versus briefs? When do you know it's the right time to have a baby? Will plastics and toxins kill my eggs? What really causes a miscarriage? Do hot tubs really kill sperm? And how do queer people have kids? Join Dr. Shaheen each week for practical approaches for your fertility journey. You are not alone, really. Find Baby or Bust on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes. And so after she passed, it's the kind of thing you can take this kind of risk if it's just you. I couldn't take the risk to go out there full time without getting paid. If I'm taking care of someone else, but so that door kind of opened. And really, I had planned about that time to be retired, and all that changed. It seemed like in an instant. And so one of the things that in the graduation, when we came out of the accelerator, the comment that I made was that, here I am at 65 years old and supposed to be retired, and now I find myself a single parent with a daughter to raise up. Her name is Reproductive Solutions.
Yeah. Amazing. So what was it that people were seeing that you guys were doing that was so innovative? Like, what were you doing differently than had been out there before?
The collection process today isn't much different than what I went through back in the 70s. Typically, up until COVID, all the collections were done in the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
You give a guy a specimen cup, what you use for urine samples.
Right.
You tell him to go in the room and produce a sample.
Yeah.
It's very stressful. Doesn't always happen even.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found when we looked at the collection process, and basically what was fueling this is, why do we collect the way we do? And the answer was basically because that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah, because there's no other way, right?
Yeah.
Hasn't been invented yet.
And so we looked at it from the standpoint of, okay, so if you're a sperm, what's the problem with the way it's collected today, and what can we do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the answer comes down to this: that there's a lot of bad things that happen to sperm when the collection is made into a specimen cup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the typical sample is only like 2 to 3 mils,
Mm-hmm.
but barely will cover the bottom of a specimen cup. So you have this broad surface area exposed. The temperature drops very rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
The exposure to light, the pH change, all the sperm are triggered. Their shock proteins go off.
Interesting.
They're looking for an egg, and I got to go now.
So interesting. So how would you describe the actual specimen collection cup that you guys have that's different? Like, everyone's picturing a urine sample cup for like what they've normally done, but for people who haven't seen your product, how do you describe it?
It's the same size as a specimen cup, approximately. The outside of the cup is an insulative plastic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a liner inside the cup that, if you can picture a funnel, it's conical shaped. And in the bottom, there's a small well that's will hold 5 milliliters.
Mm-hmm.
And that well is suspended in the cup. So there's no contact where the sample is at to the outside at all.
Got it.
And there's dead air in there that provides insulation. The cup can be used dry. We recommend that 1 milliliter of processing media is added to the cup before the collection. The processing media is the same media that the lab is going to use to wash and process the sample.
Okay.
Or for analysis.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing different there in that, except that nobody ever thought about using media before.
Where does one get that as a user?
The clinic supplies it.
Gotcha.
So they would hand this cup to the couple, and you can collect in clinic, or it allows them to collect at home, and they give them a milliliter. Mm-hmm. So it is it's an anti-stat plastic, so the sample very quickly goes to the well. It's covered in this media. And so we reduce the surface area that's exposed of the sample by 95%, which gives us 10 times the thermal capabilities. So the temperature drops very slow. And in actuality, the temperature inside that cup is going to be determined by the sample.
Mm-hmm.
But the shock proteins don't go off. In essence, the sperm keep their kind of quiescence that they had in the body. And in fact, the way I like to describe it is, sperm goes into that cup and it's covered like this. You put the lid back on and it goes dark. And so the sperm just go, man, that was a bad dream. I'm okay. And they just kind of still maintain their slow movement to wake up. Mm-hmm. None of the proteins are set off. So they don't go into the process of, all the sperm have an acrosome or a covering that's on the head that has to be intact. And that has to be used to attach to an egg. And so if you can keep them quiet, you can keep them from the shock proteins going off, then they stay healthy. And so the bottom line is this, in terms of the couple and the clinic, there's not 1 hour to process this sample. You have 48 hours that it's stable. Mm-hmm. So you can collect at home, which when COVID came along, more of that started. This is the perfect way to do that. The clinics don't have to, run around like their hair's on fire trying to get things processed. They've got plenty of time to do it. It stays stable. Actually, for an andrologist, which is the the person that's going to be looking at the samples, one of the things that we explain to them, we provide instructions for them, is when they first look at the sample, they're not going to see as many sperm moving as they're accustomed to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because nobody's, has shocked the protein and the sperm to take off. And so in our cup, the sperm wake up slowly and they maintain this rate. So at a 6-hour window, which in our mind is typically by 6 hours, you're going to be processing the motility and the ability to fertilize an egg when it's collected in our cup versus a specimen cup, 50%.
Wow. Okay. So that's huge.
That's a huge amount. Yes.
Yep. It's so interesting that, the engineering and the design behind this, has made such a difference in your findings, at least with the, like you said, the increase in motility and the fertilization capability, slowing the cooling rate, and increasing conception rates in animals. And according to what you guys sent me, there's early results that, ongoing humans are testing it, right? But showing similar data.
Yes. And when we looked in the IUI side, which is where we really think there may be the biggest application for this, in the IUI side, the chemical pregnancy rate was approximately the same, regardless of how you collected. But the percentage of that go on to actual heartbeat is approximately 30% higher if our device is used. So for us, that's confirming that the sperm are healthier, chromosomes are staying intact, and so they have the ability to go ahead and attach and to go to heartbeat. So we are very excited. Our scientific advisory board is very excited. Columbia's excited. So much so that we're going to go ahead and make people aware of that data, but then follow through to actual heartbeats, not to heartbeats, to live births.
Right.
Because that's the name of the game. Absolutely.
Well, I find it so interesting that one thing I love about people who have gone through their own fertility journeys is, so many people, including yourself, have created, or joined a company or a product or some sort of innovation that is hoping to make it an easier road for those following behind us. So thank you for that. And I can tell you're so passionate about it. And I love that you're, carrying on your wife's legacy by doing what you can to help other couples. So I would love to wrap by just, asking if you had any advice for people who might be listening. I know that you guys were going through this decades ago at this point, but, for anybody who might be listening, who's like losing hope or just feeling so down about what they're going through, any words or something you wish you would have known then?
I wish we would have, and this is back to a comment you made earlier, I wish there had been groups around that we could talk to and to get help. Don't lose hope. Pray about it. Talk to your friends. There's nothing like a support group around you. And there's a lot of failures that can happen along the way. That's part of the journey, just to keep the faith. And without plugging too much, ask your clinic about ProteX. And I'll give you a short anecdotal story of why I'm saying that, because we had, as we were going through research, we had a couple that were trying to have kids. They couldn't. They collected the male 4 different times, and he had a range of sperm count that was, I think the best was like 4.3 million to like 1.8. His average was like 2.29 million, which sounds like a lot. In terms of being able to try the most basic procedures, which is IUI, at least this particular clinic, their cutoff was 5 million. If your count's below 5 million, there's not much chance it's going to work. So you got to go right to IVF. And this couple, it's not much different than many couples. They can't afford that,
right?
Which is unfortunate. We have 7-8 million couples going through this, and there's only a couple million that can actually go to treatment. Just struggle with this.
Right.
they said, well, we can't do that. We can't afford it. We can barely afford IUI. So I said, well, no, there's this new device that's being developed. Let's collect in that and see what happens. And bottom line is his count was 12 million.
Wow.
And that's what that's illustrating is the damage that's done with the way things are collected today happens very quickly from the time that the sample gets into the container.
Mm-hmm.
The time that most labs are able to analyze, there's been a huge drop-off already.
Yeah.
So you don't know, and I'll say it this way, the testing that they use is very, very accurate, but the sample they're testing is not.
Okay.
So maybe you're on the borderline, maybe you need to ask for collection to be taken another way, and let's see what your real sperm count is like.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you to John once again for sharing his story and for sharing what he got out of his journey and how he's helping others today. So you guys are awesome for always listening to these stories. I know they're all so different and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all my guests for coming forward, pitching me stuff. I'm always, wanting to give you guys as much diverse content as possible. So thanks again to everybody. We've got so many other good stories coming up in the queue. So keep listening, subscribe if you haven't already, rate and review us if you haven't already. And also one more thing is if you guys are looking for community, the Fertility Rally is there for you. This is the place Blair and I created because we wanted community 24/7. We wanted a badass sisterhood. And now we have it. We're over 325 members strong, worldwide, growing every month. Join our family. We'd love to have you no matter where you're at and what you're going through. So you can check us out on IG at Fertility Rally, and you can check us out online at fertilityrally.com. We are actually open the first week of every month. So we are open right now. Our membership doors are open, so you can join us monthly or annually. And we would love to have you join our support groups, join our private Facebook groups, and just join this amazing community that is here to lift you up. So thanks again for listening, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Everyone feels the anticipation and excitement before a wedding, and planning starts way ahead of time, especially when it comes to what to wear. Whether you're going to be a groom, in a wedding party, or a lucky guest, everyone wants to look their best. With an Indochino custom-fitted suit, you'll look great, feel confident, and enjoy the big day without fussing over your clothes. Choose every detail of a suit, shirt, or dinner jacket at prices that might surprise you for fully custom pieces. Every Indochino suit is made to your exact measurements, and you can customize every detail for a suit that fits you and your style perfectly. Down to fabric, lapel shape, custom monogram, statement linings, and more. Suits start at just $429 and shirts from $89. If you've got a big day coming up, perfect your look with Indochino. Get $50 off a purchase of $399 or more with code BIGDAY at Indochino.com. That's code BIGDAY for $50 off $399 or more at INDOCHINO.com.